We've talked on the YouTube channel quite a bit at this point, guys, about Mass Effect and the future of this franchise. Where could this franchise be? Like, what direction could they be going in, right? We've talked about, Mass Effect 4 versus that of Mass Effect Andromeda 2 versus that of a Mass Effect Remastered. And so I want to talk about, in this first segment of the show, Mass Effect 4, because I think, guys, we can all probably can agree that a Mass Effect Remastered is most likely at some point or another going to be coming out. And I think that Andromeda 2 seems to be somewhat of a, not necessarily something that definitely won't happen, but most likely the developers and the publishers and all of those things, most likely they are not going to continue Andromeda, even though I thought personally that it was a really good game overall. Like, I enjoyed it, and I thought that it got a lot of, unfortunate backlash. I understand why. I think people have a lot of, those nostalgic feelings when it comes to the original core Mass Effect trilogy. And so when Mass Effect Andromeda wasn't hitting on certain areas, you just had a lot of the community really firing on all cylinders, really upset about the direction that was taken there. And so I think that we can probably all agree that Mass Effect 4, all in all, would most likely be the next thing coming over that of an Andromeda 2, unless they decide to go in a completely new direction with a new franchise, a new sub-series of Mass Effect, kind of like Andromeda, but just called something else. But I want to talk about Mass Effect 4, guys. Everything that we want in this game, whether it would be called Mass Effect 4 or something else, we're going to talk about everything that we want. And when I say we, I mean I'm really talking about just myself here, but I know some of you are going to share similar, thoughts and opinions. And if you don't, be sure to let us know in the comment section down below what you would want to see and what you want in Mass Effect 4. So let's get into it. So, number one, guys, for Mass Effect, in my opinion, is, it's a fantastic story, and I think all in all, that's where you got to start. And so when we talk about everything that we want, I think we want something that's going to feel similar, going to have that same, those same mechanics and the same feel of Mass Effect. But I think it's important that, the first 3 games, guys, were great, all in their entirety for the most part. I wasn't as big of a fan of the games as a lot of people out there, but I still enjoyed them and I respect them, in a major way. But I think like Shepard's story, for example, has been told, right? Even though there's a lot of mystery there, I think it's been told, and I think it's time for him, that being Shepard, to pass the torch on to someone else, that you take the helm of, you start controlling like a new character. And we have those similarities throughout the course of the story, and even maybe some of the old characters come back in one way, shape, or form. But I feel that Mass Effect, guys, kind of like StarCraft, kind of like Star Wars, kind of like a lot of these massive franchises, when we talk about these games, when you're talking about these like space games, when you really think about it, there's an infinite amounts of opportunity and different places you could go, many different planets you could visit and things of that nature. So what I'm getting at is Andromeda took this direction of having things that were similar, but it was still like set in, not even close to where, the original events of the first 3 Mass Effect games were. So, that being said, I think they need to continue that, being somewhere else, like new characters, but somewhat, there's still that same feel, and I think it would be important to start introducing or reintroducing some of the old characters as well. The other thing, guys, for me that's really big is, I think that what made Mass Effect such a special title was just all the different types of, choices you would have to make throughout the story. And I think that was something that was really important. There were times, though, that I felt that some of the different options you had and the different choices that you made didn't sometimes make sense, or they didn't necessarily really end up kind of changing anything, right? Some of the choices that you would make did affect the story, but some also did not really do anything at all. I think it's important to have that balance, whereas each choice that you make has it causes ramifications throughout the course of the game. I think that is important. Now, I do not like the idea of having multiple alternate endings, essentially, because a lot of people, like I said with Mass Effect 3, there was a ton of controversy around that game. And even more so than that, just lots of people that have been talking about it for years at this point. I think it's important that you kind of, with this title, you at least are really, more so than anything, reintroducing the Mass Effect brand. And so I think that's really important to kind of have a story that's really well done, but have it where, it closes the... or it kind of either extends the universe further and kind of takes us into the next game, so whatever those next games would be, or it just kind of, it closes the chapter on this particular story and moves us into the, into the next games or whatever. And so I think it's really important that, all in all, with this game, Mass Effect 4, I think it's really important that the choices you have and that you make, it comes to a conclusion at the end, and it's not necessarily like, there's definitely mystery, and I love that there's mystery and such, and people are talking about it, because that really gets people, obviously talking, gets community really excited about where the series could be going. But I think it's important with this that they're trying to get their footing back once again in this franchise, that they, take more of a conservative approach with the ending, so that it kind of sets up things in the future and kind of gives us a little bit more closure on things, whether that might be closure from Mass Effect 3 to now, or just kind of some closure on the current story, Mass Effect 4, moving us into Mass Effect 5. So that would be my next thing. The next one, guys, really has to do with the way in which we connect with this franchise. And this is a big one for me, and I say this ad nauseum, guys, on the YouTube channel, and those of you who have been watching the videos here, thank you, first of all, for watching the videos. But secondly, that I'm a big advocate of having a full package when you're buying a $60 game. One of those being, guys, having multiple ways you can connect with the franchise. So like with Mass Effect, I think it's important that you have, obviously the single player story is obviously what the big draw here to Mass Effect is. But I also think it's important that you have co-op modes. I think it's important that you have multiplayer modes. It's been it's starting to kind of be a number of years since we got Mass Effect 3. Obviously we had Andromeda in between there, but it's been a while since that original core trilogy. And so what I'm getting at here is, let's say a remaster comes out to kind of try to reintroduce everyone to the Mass Effect franchise. For those people who didn't get a chance to play them, can play them on the remastered version. Then you get Mass Effect 4 at some point in the future. I think it's important that there's more ways than one to connect with the franchise. So having multiplayer modes and co-op modes, I think, is really important. I think this is a franchise that deserves to have that, guys. I mean, I look at games like Gears of War. What would Gears of War be like if it was only a single player story? I mean, it would be great. We would love it. But at the end of the day, it's only a single player story. And so what ends up happening is, after you're done with that single player story, you might play it one more time on a harder difficulty, try to find some other Easter eggs or some collectibles, and then you're going to move on to another game. What I want with Mass Effect is, I want this, as in the form of Mass Effect 4, I want to be able to play the single player story one or two times, or however many times I want to play it. And then after I'm done with that, I don't go on to other games. I start going into the multiplayer and start diving into the co-op modes with my friends. I think that's a really important thing as well. And so, all in all, guys, these are the main things that I absolutely want in Mass Effect 4. Whenever this game comes out, it's hard to say, guys. I think that there's a whole slate of different, projects and of course that any developer and publisher that are working on at any given time. So the question might be is, when will we get a Mass Effect 4? When we do get one, which I do believe we will, because this is a classic type of a franchise, guys. There's a massive following here with Mass Effect. People love this series and want to see it continue. And sure, Mass Effect, the first 3 games were going on such a high note, right? And then of course, you had Andromeda, that was kind of that dip, that that valley that ended up happening. It always takes one game that to really hurt a franchise, but it takes one game to bring it right back up. And I think that that's the case here with Mass Effect. And I think that even though I liked Andromeda, I would say most people didn't like it. And that's okay. That's the beauty of video games. We all can have our own opinions. But all in all, guys, those are the things that I want. The main thing that I don't want, guys, I don't want Shepard to be the playable character in Mass Effect 4. I think it's time to move on, right? With any franchise, there comes a point where it's time to move on. Gears of War had it. I was talking about Gears of War a little earlier here. I mean, Gears of War had it. You know, we even had it somewhat in Halo. And, you know, some of these franchises suffer for it. But other franchises, you know, you start to evolve over time. You can't always have those, you know, main characters unless you just want the series to stop eventually. I think it's important that the torch is passed on to the next character. And whether you love those characters or not, it helps move the series, the story, the lore forward, which I think is really, really important. Because imagine if they were to say, that being Disney, let's just say Disney decided that they didn't want to buy Lucasfilm and just leave the Star Wars franchise as it is. And we would never have the new movies, which I enjoy them. Like, some of them aren't that great, but I enjoy that we're continuing to get Star Wars movies, regardless of what you think about them. We're getting new characters, and some of the old characters are coming into the fray as well. So you have new and existing characters that are, you know, within these worlds, and that's important. But I also think, guys, it's important that you move on at times. You have to move on to other characters, and it's just something that ends up having to happen. So that would be my main thing, is for the creative nature of Mass Effect, but this universe being so big. I think it's important that we move on from Shepard, but maybe have different, you know, things that kind of give a kudos to Shepard, or he's even in the new game, but it's like an older version of him, or whatever it might be, guys. Those are the things that I want in Mass Effect 4. Let me know in the comment section below what you guys want, because it really comes down to what you guys want as well. This is just one man's thoughts. I would love to hear yours. Let me know in the comment section below. And for more Mass Effect 4 content and videos, stay here with Zero TV.